Hi, everyone. Welcome to this new episode of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. It's going to be another weekly recap from March 20th to 26th, 2017. And it's also going to be done by video. So if you'd like to see me do this recording, if that's something that you like to see, go to youtube.com/jqqlaw, and I'll have the recording up there as well. Or else you can listen on iTunes or any other audio format you like to listen to. So without further ado, let's get it started. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted, and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. Welcome back. So this has been a pretty busy week for my practice and just in general for immigration. Keeping track of the weekly and daily news events that happened, I think it's the busiest week in news, immigration related, that I've had in years. Because I keep track, I have a blog where I just copy paste, things in the news that affect immigration, especially immigration practice. And there's just so much more things I saved this week than any other week in the last 3 or 4 years since I've been doing this. It's amazing. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with President Trump and all the things that are going on in immigration. And also from my office, I have some complicated cases. I mean, I have a J1 2-year visa requirement waiver, so I have to check up on that and how to do that for the specific country. And, the countries don't make it easy researching how their waiver requirements are for their advisory opinion. And then I have an L1, a potential big L1B case, which is going to be like 5 or 6 L1Bs for a company. And, I've had success with L1Bs, but it's just always nerve-wracking every time I do this. And talking with a client and, when they're foreign countries, they just expect me to say, I'm going to get paid, I'm going to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. But if the L1B or L1s in general, you never know. Especially when you have foreign companies who don't keep records as well as we do in the U.S. And if the owner isn't understanding, and not to say that this particular case isn't like that, but when I tell them I need a chart of every employee and they just send general department charts, I'm like, no, I need every single employee, their names, how much they make, their job title, their education, potentially copies of their bachelor's degrees. That kind of stuff, it frustrates them. But if they're a big company, if they have an HR department, they should be able to do that, no problem. But they don't feel like it. And that becomes some pushback. And I say, listen, do you want to get approved? Do you want to have a higher chance or not? And so that's a big problem, sometimes asking for all their tax documents, income records. They're not comfortable with giving that, especially if it's going to be involved with an employee file. Potentially an employee could access that. And you got to work with them on that. But I want to increase chances of success. I need all the documents I can get my hands on. And translations, which could be expensive. And that's also frustrating. Speaking of L1s, I did another podcast this week, which I'm going to publish soon after this one. I look into 4 AAO decisions that came out recently, and I analyze them and break them down because they had some nuanced issues of law that aren't regularly brought up in L1 cases. So I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about. I expect that coming up if you're interested in business immigration cases. I also have an EB1, another group EB1, where a national team won the gold medal for their sport in the Olympics. And the thing about team sports is it's hard. The EB1 is for extraordinary ability, and they look at the individual. And so when teams come to me and I tell them, well, I got to analyze you one by one, they're like, well, we won the award. I'm like, well, immigration is not going to be as easy on that. Even though it is an Olympic medal, I'm hesitant to just file willy-nilly without doing thorough research to individually show that people have that. And so in the sport they're from, in the country they're from, it's not as easy. They're a recently top team for the last couple of years, but they haven't done as many interviews as I would like, especially not all the team members. So I give them the example of the Bulls in the 90s, the best team in the league. Well, Michael Jordan, yeah, he's EB1. Scottie Pippen, he's probably EB1. Horace Grant, if you follow basketball in the 1990s, I'm saying names. But once you go down the list, not everyone on the team deserves an EB1. And just because they won the championship multiple times doesn't mean everyone's going to get EB1. Everyone could get an O1, and I told them I could get that for them, no problem. But at EB1, I said, listen, just any person that calls you for an interview, have each of them, I'll talk to their manager, have each of them go do an interview if they can. Just anybody calls, and especially if it's print, if it's in newspapers and magazines, everyone wants to show videos. I'm like, USCI is not as sophisticated. I can take screenshots of the video and prove it to them, but it just haven't written down so we can take the words off it too. So that these are things I would taking a lot of my time, especially when I have a group that you have to research multiple people, made it really busy for me. But also just following up on the general immigration issues in the country. A court in Virginia, a federal court judge, disagreed and dissented with the TROs on the executive order. So it's not something that all the judges agree upon. There is a chance like the TRO could be lifted and things could go through depending on the panel of judges that view it. So it's still something that's up in the air. It's not gone. And so I have to deal with that. And it's kind of frustrating because let's say it does come back. There's talk about this waiver, but what are the standards for the waiver? What experience do officers have in this particular situation when it's such a new law? And that's going to be a problem of just getting what the rules are, how far we can push it. There's going to be some embassies that are more lax than others, and it's going to be frustrating because our clients are going to say, "Oh, my friend went to Turkey and they approved it, and then in Abu Dhabi they may not be approving it." And so what are you going to do? And they're going to say, "Oh, blame it on the lawyer." And maybe not. How the people deal with it at the interview. These kind of like the unknowns. There's so many in immigration we're doing anyways, and every time you add a level of variability, it becomes very frustrating. Speaking of frustrations, I haven't been following it up as much, but apparently ICE has been really cracking down. They're going after farm workers that don't even have immigration issues necessarily with regards to criminal issues, which is affecting farmland and farm production, agricultural production. But also the Washington State Chief Judge wrote a letter saying, ICE can't be coming standing outside courthouses to pick up people. And this is a very serious issue. Now, I don't want to say ICE doesn't necessarily, they're all bad or something like that. The country has laws, and so we have to enforce them. If you don't want there to be these laws, we got to, vote and do all that kind of stuff and push our representatives to change the law. So ICE has a duty and they're going to do it. But when it comes to the administration of justice, like a courthouse, they have to be hold back from that. That in schools and stuff, we don't want people not to take part in, justice if they need to, and be afraid to go to the courts. And another thing, the LA city was saying, the reports of crimes from immigrant communities has gone down. And that's another thing. Like, we don't want to be afraid to come out and tell the police it was a criminal act. And these kind of, ICE enforcement, it hurts civil society. And then, people allegedly going to school and getting picked up when they're dropping off their kids. It makes the kids afraid. And that's psychologically scarring and damaging. For a kid might be a U.S. citizen, they're going to be here. And they're going to grow up hating America because of that, or hating the government because of that. And so you're sowing the seeds of civil discord in the long term. If you need to do some ICE raids, and it is what it is, then do them. But don't go to the courts. Don't let it affect people reporting crimes to the police. Don't go after schools. This is just like human decency. I did a video about this young girl who's got picked up after she spoke out about her immigration situation. And on my YouTube comments, which I usually don't post any of the comments. People say good or bad, I just leave them blank. But don't approve them either way. But so many people have saying good for her. She deserves this and that. I'm like, wow, like. I can see the parents saying they deserve it because they're the one who committed the crime. I mean, the immigration crime of like coming and overstaying on their visa waiver. But like, kid was like a little baby, and then she grows up here, and so holding people responsible for crimes or whatever it is that they didn't do, it goes against the basic ideas of justice. And so when people are really write the stuff that they write on these comments when they're leaving them, it's amazing. I mean, there's always going to be trolls, but in the video, I don't take sides on it either. And probably if you listen to my podcast and stuff, I'm not a person that necessarily takes sides in any of this because I appreciate the existence of rule of law. And if we have these rules, then we have to enforce them or else take away from them. I say this a lot because in any society, then taking the other side, if people are coming in and not going by the rules we have for immigration, if you will, that's a stepping stone of just breaking what our rules are and little by little not respecting them. It starts with this and the next thing. And especially if they're not enforced, then you don't take them seriously. And eventually we turn into countries where the law is just whoever wants to enforce them, whoever has the money to pay it off, all that kind of stuff, which we're getting there pretty much. But that's why I say either we don't have laws or if we do, we got to enforce them. So I'm not a person that's far left on these issues. But if I'm getting them, and if you watch that video, I'm not really going hardcore on the sides, other than just saying this person's a kid. We got to be cool with children and how that affects them. And getting that kind of response, it shows like the kind of animosity that's in the air. It's just kind of crazy. And in that light, the fear is really bad. I mean, I talked to immigration attorneys the other week that deal with a lot of removal type cases. They're saying their clients are afraid to like leave the house. Some of them are stop going to work, and so it starts slowing down the wheels of society when we have this kind of situation. And to be frank, it's not necessarily the case that things have gotten worse. In some senses, yeah, they have. But the previous administration was deporting like crazy too. They did good stuff like DACA, that prosecutor discretion that I think has been shut down now. But a lot of these things happen. The news is just reporting immigration more and more. For example, especially with regards to visa stuff, there's been a lot of high-profile like denials. Like an African trade conference was happening in the U.S. and they denied visas to everyone coming in from Africa. The Tibetan national team for soccer, football is denied visas when they were coming. They probably had a P visa or something like that to come compete. So like these things were always happening because the embassy is pretty hardcore. When it comes to like fear of granting a visa and people coming overstaying or something like that. But I've seen it mentioned in the news. And so I posted one thing, for example, about South by Southwest, how people were denied entry. And some lady, I think she might have been a lawyer, was saying, oh, no, Trump is evil. I'm like, well, Trump is Trump and that has his issues. But this, CBP being CBP and denying entry for people that are potentially coming here to do work, or the embassies denying stuff, that's been the normal situation. And I got to learn not to respond to comments. It was on a Facebook comment, so everyone could see. Usually I just wouldn't let people comment. But she's like, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, no, dude, like, not lady. I sent examples to her. It's like, okay, I stand corrected and blah, blah, blah. But, people want to despise Trump, which, in some senses, the stuff's kind of crazy that he's doing. But I like to look at the big picture of which direction things are going and how things have been. And there's issues with immigration policy. And we can't make it about that one person, because what happens in 4 years is he goes, Hillary comes in or some other person like that, and people then forget about it. We got to go with the bigger picture, not these individuals. Individuals are good to get people riled up, but then when they go, people calm down, and they just make it about the person. And we got to really make it about ideas. That's the long-term change that happen. People come and go, but these ideas stay. And so we got to figure out how can we correct these ideas? How can we get people to understand the ideas better? That's what the focus should be on, in my opinion. And I could be wrong. But the fun stuff that Trump does is just keeps coming. They banned having electronics like iPads and laptops for direct flights coming from like 7 or 8 Middle Eastern countries, or 6 or so. And Great Britain banned another 7. Because they're afraid of some intel they got that apparently is used for terrorism. So, the top international routes of like, Turkish Airlines, Arab Emirates, UAE, and all those people that come direct from, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the Gulf states to the U.S. direct flights, they're not allowed to bring electronics on. So, I mean, if you go do a stop in Germany and then you come, it's okay, but you can't do direct. Okay. Now, how much does that have to do with the fact that these airlines were killing it when it comes to business class travelers coming in? And now, I mean, if you're a business class traveler and you can't bring your computer, I mean, I fly to Dubai every once in a while, and if I don't have my laptop with me, I'm definitely not going to use that flight. I'd rather have a stop, even though I like direct flights. I'd rather have a stop and bring my laptop. So it's kind of a devastating blow. And with the lobbying they have from those countries, I'm surprised they didn't push back before this went into effect, but they declared it. Also, the State Department under Tillerson said that they're going to start going after extra scrutiny and blah, blah, blah for certain populations, which essentially, the same countries that have problems, maybe more. One thing that bothers me is most people don't know about administrative processing. If you haven't gone through the visa process and it hasn't hit you, you don't know the fact that, like, I have clients that are 8, 9, 10 months. I've heard people have 2-year administrative processing. It hasn't happened to me, but I've heard people say they've had that. So administrative processing is this catch-all term for they need to review your case more, which a lot of time could be FBI background checks and stuff like that. So this kind of like hardcore background checks that in the campaign they talked about, it already exists, as y'all know listening to this. If people knew about it, the information is out there that we're already doing this, and the embassies are hardcore. If they don't feel comfortable with somebody, they'll deny it. And no legal net, no State Department contacts, no USS, nothing. No one can say anything. You're out. Like, that's it. You could try applying again, but you get the same decision. So embassies don't mess around, and consuls don't mess around. and people don't have rights when they go in for a visa anyway, so there's not much you can do in terms of lawsuits. So this has already been the case. The things people are afraid of, I mean, now they're pushing viewing social media, which is going to be crazy because already officers don't have enough time to review everything. Now we have the expectation that they're going to go read their social media. Now, obviously, they could just delete that if they want to. It's nothing too hard. So a lot of these measures are half-baked, or like they're not realistic measures to prevent these kind of situations. I would say maybe stop bombing these countries. That would be the way to go, and also save billions. But the one thing I've learned about government activities is common sense is the way to go. So right now we're just going to have to deal with these kind of stuff until it comes to shore and affects us personally. Then Americans might rise up against these crazy ideas. Hopefully not before it's too late. But, NAFTA is potentially under renegotiation, which for immigration attorneys could affect the TN status. TN is a fun one. I like doing them. Usually I do them from Canada, not from Mexico. But Mexico is a good option for people that could get it. I'm guessing that's going to be one of those things that's going to come under review. Maybe or maybe not the Canadian portion, because Canada, they also put the information out for building the wall. And I didn't read it. I was watching some news or something here on the radio, but they were saying that with regards to the Mexican side of the border wall, they're like, it has to be 10 feet tall, 6 feet deep, has to stop people from this and that, can't be broken or attacked. And then on the Canada portion, which they included in there, it said, it has to be nicely colored. Doesn't look good. So there's that kind of stuff. Now, let's be honest, immigration studies, overstays from Canada are rampant. It's like illegal immigration, if you will, from Canada is rampant. So many Canadians do that. So many of them work unlawfully in the U.S. But it's just the way of things are viewed right now, with a difference between the southern and the northern border. An interesting thing that happened, which is something that I've always been a problem for me, is they finally convicted one attorney who was doing, and this is moving on to totally new things, they convicted an attorney for asylum fraud, for filing frivolous asylum motions, working on creating false evidence to help cases. And so this guy was doing a lot of fraud asylum cases, and they finally got him, which probably is going to scare the hell out of a lot of attorneys, especially here in Los Angeles, to be honest. I stopped taking asylum cases many years ago. One reason was because the cases are taking too long, and the clients got super frustrated, and they thought I was doing something wrong when their interview wasn't coming after multiple years. And even now, I still get people calling me once a week, every once every 2 weeks, saying, my lawyer sucks, they're terrible, I've been waiting 2 years, no interview, I want to fire them. I'm like, it's not up to them how quickly I have an interview. It's not up to them at all. I don't know if they're a good attorney or bad attorney, but don't be doing that. So I just don't feel like dealing with clients that don't have understanding. And it's frustrating, too, after 2 or 3 years of waiting and see what happens. It seems crazy, but I'm like, go check USCIS. The processing times are listed on there. Asylum in Los Angeles takes forever. But the other main reason I stopped doing it is I get a call for asylum once a day. If I take these, I could have just made a practice of asylum, made a fortune. But almost all of them are fraudulent asylum cases saying, what do I need to say to get asylum? And it's just like people call me up straight up on the phone and say that, and I wouldn't even take the case if you told me later, but I just can't do it. I appreciate, if I was from this country that sucked and I was in the U.S. and I could file asylum, maybe I would. I probably would. I don't want to go back to, I don't want to disparage some countries, but some horrible countries that are out there. And so maybe I would do that too. So I don't blame it per se. I don't like it when they call me and they say, and then after I get asylum, how quickly do I get benefits? I just want to smack them. I'm like, dude, you haven't been here for 2 days and you're trying to milk the system already. But there's so much of a fraud. I'm just like, I can't take these cases. I want to have a reputation in the system that, like, when I go to USCIS, they know I don't do that. And it's just not this kind of thing I would do to just make a bogus claim if someone converted or something like that. I'll let the money slide. Someone else can take that if they want to. But it's not all money is good money. And I just decided the amount of time it takes for me to weed out the cases, which ones are real, which ones are not, it just was too time consuming. Again, I'm a solo, and I could only take so many cases, especially all this fun stuff I do with videos and stuff. I decided the better way for me to do it is maybe put that information out there so people could learn more if they're a potential client and have an idea of how to do it. So I have resources I put out there about the asylum process, how to maybe choose an attorney, what's required. So I do my giving back to the community in that way. But I just put my focus on my caseload on family and, USCIS family type cases and business cases. Even within business, it's H-1B season. People are going nuts right now, obviously. I don't do H-1B. I give those out. And so this has been a fun March for me. I get my cases that are busy, but things I have to do with Department of Labor, I don't even mess around with. It's just, it's not fun for me to play that game, if you will. So I just focus on EB1s and EB5s, and EB5 is a mess too. But yeah, family cases, I really love L1s. They're so fun. But let's move on. One note is they updated the civil surgeon medical requirement where people have to get tested for gonorrhea. So that's one thing to note. A lot of doctors are going to probably forget. We have this problem every time they update the forms for the medical certificate. And some once in a while, doctors forget to get the new form. And they submitted, USCIS sends an RFE saying they need a new one. If that happens, or with regards to the gonorrhea stuff, they don't do the test, make sure maybe call in for your clients, because they charge like $300 now to do this. And if they mess up, they shouldn't be charging another sum to get that fixed. The doctor should take the hit. And so if you need be, do this for your clients. Call them and say, listen, you messed up. Don't charge the client. A lot of these marriage cases, they're young couples sometimes, not people that are well off. $300 is a big deal. And so, like, it's funny, the more business gets good, like, sums that used to before be like the big deal. Now I'm like, well, when we were talking about it, I was at the district meeting, and someone mentioned that, saying, there's a lot of money for about $300. I'm like, $200 is not too bad. But then I was like, well, $300. People make, minimum wage. It's horrible. At $300, that's almost a week's worth of salary. So it's a big pressure, especially if the lower income communities. It's very tough. $300 is a big hit. That's money that could be spent on their food potentially, or their family. So do it for your clients. Call that doctor, let him know. And I'm not sure you can file complaints or something. Maybe have the client leave a Yelp review saying this guy forgot to do it. What a clown! If they still want to get money, Yelp is great. Leave bad reviews for people if they deserve it. But be careful. There's some people sue back, so make sure it's done the right way. One technical note I want to talk about, a case I had, and I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. It's an L1 case where people filed the L1 while their tourist visa was here, and they had a pending change of status request. When you do change of status and your original I-94 expires, you're covered under a tolling provision under INA Section 212A9B. So you're going to be good, and the client's going to be good. Now, when you go refer to Adjudicator's Field Manual 40.9.2B3, it has some additional information. So this tolling provision in the INA just says, like, for 120 days, a change of status or extension of status protects accruing of unlawful presence during the pendency for up to 120 days, so that you don't fall foul of the 3-year bar, blah, blah, blah. And it's if the client was lawfully admitted or paroled, they timely filed a non-frivolous application, and they didn't work unlawfully. But there's a policy, and this is an Adjudicator's Field Manual, that says, although the INA says 120 days, only 3-year bar, they actually have it, they don't have a specific time period. As long as the case is pending, because they know USCIS has a lot of delays. Like, for example, I think in the statute it says L1 cases are only supposed to take 1 month, which is not happening unless you're doing pre-processing. Even then, good luck. So they say, as a policy, the 120 days toll is nothing. It just goes until the case is pending. And this applies for the 3 and 10-year bar. Now, if the case is denied, you begin to start accumulating unlawful presence, so you need to leave. And then if you want to get another visa again, just make sure to have the documentation that you timely filed it and an explanation of what the case was, so it doesn't look like it was a frivolous one. So when you go and get another visa, you could explain that to the officer, and they won't give you problems. That's something to prepare clients for if this case comes up. But again, I said it last time, do pre and processing. Just no reason not to do pre and processing. I'm going to talk about 2 more notes. I'm trying to debate which one to start with, which one to end with today's conversation. But one is, I guess, volunteering for AILA. The national committee stuff, I think it's over, but local stuff is going to be starting soon. I really recommend people to do that, especially if you're a new member and you have more time. Definitely join AILA, your chapter, and work at it. And when you join, don't just do it to get the label. Add something to it. Bring something to the table. Constantly on top of it. Consider it one of your cases. And there's so much joy you could bring to it. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I love it. And people ask me, like, why do you do that? What benefit does it have? Well, just dollar and cents wise, I 100% didn't go into this expecting to make any money or anything like that. But when you do it, you make connections, and cases do come your way. And also, I've made friends that that my H-1B cases, which I refer out, I referred to my buddies I met through my what is it called, volunteering at AILA. So it goes both ways with regards to cases. But in general, it helps giving back to the community. It's very important to do that. Take what you have in your bag. It's just good karma. And on the other end, information. I think that's number 1, 2, and 3 is info. Through the friendships I made, through the events I go to, I have access to information. And we're lawyers. Our thing is we deal in immigration. Like some people do sell drugs, they deal in drugs. Some people sell goods, they sell TVs, they deal in TVs. We deal with information. And so when you have more access to information and experience, you're going to be a better attorney, and you could be more successful. So all the friends I made through AILA for volunteering, that's such a good resource because they know me personally. They give me a heads up on cases, on ideas, help me brainstorm stuff. It's wonderful. And you get to know people on a very personal level. So definitely do it. But if you do it right. Don't halfway do it. And I really hate it when I see volunteers that are taking some sort of liaison position with AILA that pretty much just sign up and disappear. It's just offensive to me. It creates a lot of work for everyone else, and it undermines the position, so people don't have expectations from it. So I really recommend you do that. And if you do that, they'll put the time, both nationally and locally. Local is always best, but national is very fun too. Definitely do that. On that end, I'm actually going to be speaking at the national conference this year in New Orleans. Definitely come stop by, see me if that happens. I'm also going to have a lunchtime. I think it's on a Thursday. We'll have a luncheon or something where 10 or 20 other people sign up could come. And we're going to talk about, the topic was immigration practice in the modern age, and just talking about stuff I'm doing and help people do that. So if you get that list, definitely, if you're watching, definitely sign up and have some lunch. It'll be a good time to talk with each other. But going on, and again, speaking of, I guess, immigration in the modern age, there was an article about the effect of AI, or artificial intelligence, on the practice of law. And I'm going to end with this because this is a really deep subject. What's going to happen as technology gets better and with regards to law practice? I had this week 2 people contact me. Actually, I'll talk about something else in a second too. But I had 2 people contact me from these websites that say, like, they help your practice and they have online systems, blah, blah, blah. So I went to them and checked it out. Both those websites had a component for lawyers to use so that potential clients could, fill out forms and stuff or questionnaires, and helps you practice management. But on the same page, they also had stuff where it would say, okay, you're doing naturalization, family case, whatever, fill out this form and we'll tell you what you need to do and all this kind of stuff. Only $200 or something. So in one sense, it undermines our practice, and I didn't want to participate with those sites. I'm like, what is this guy doing? He's charging me on one end and then he's taking away my business on the other. But it takes away from the quality of the practice, because people are going to think that's it. So it undermines what we do, think we don't do anything. And what kind of service could you get if some website is telling you what to do and not to do, and not really diving in deep into the personal situations people are involved in and guiding them through the process? There's intangible things that come out when you're talking to people, or advice you give, help plan their lives, follow-ups, make you feel comfortable with what's happening, make sure you alleviate their worries, or you watch out for potential minds that might pop up in their way. So, but at the end of the day, when someone says $200 for naturalization through a website, that's going to have an effect on our practices. And so, me having a practice that's based on family cases, USCIS benefits cases, and business, the business stuff I think is always going to need lawyers because those are super complicated. But eventually, family stuff potentially could fade away. And I do a lot of work in that area. I'm writing a book on that, and I talk about it. When there's family cases that have issues, they're going to need a lawyer. But a lot of times, people are just going to file it, and then once they have a mishap happen, they come to the lawyer. What is going to happen to an immigration practice, or just practice in general? I see removal stuff always needing a lawyer because someone needs to get represented there. But these benefits-based cases potentially could go away in 5-10 years, or they'd be severely less than now. So planning in the future of what's going to happen for family naturalization cases, how these websites are going to do them, something important to think about, especially if you have like a practice-only focus on that. It's a serious threat, and I don't want to say threat because it's a reality. At the end of the day, if I was in the client's position and I have a cheaper alternative, then I would definitely take that as well. I don't hold it against them. Or even these websites for creating these kind of solutions. Hopefully the quality stays up what's necessary. But looking at our practices, that's going to have potentially a big effect. So it's something to think about, how to pivot and create additional services that can't be provided. Usually stuff that requires creativity and experience. And still those will too, but people will be fooled into using those sites, especially if the funds aren't there, which I understand. So that's something to think about. Which way is your practice going? Are you protected from any major changes brought by technology, especially with how fast technology is going now? I mean, I'm saying maybe 5-10 years in the future, but for all I know, this could happen next year. And they're already happening websites where people just fill out a form and they give them guidance on how to do it. So that's something to worry about. The thing I forgot to talk about, which I'll end with, is I had usually when I have a thing happen like the J 2-year visa waiver thing, 2-year home residency requirement that I'm working on. I had 2 other people contacting me the day later once I got that first case. Whenever I get a particular type of case or idea or issue or facts, it always happens in threes. It's kind of weird. The other thing that happened in threes this week was people calling saying they got married or did a fiancé visa. The spouse got the green card, and then the spouse immediately dumped them, saying that, oh yeah, I only married you for the green card, blah, blah, blah. Then now they wanted to get back at them for that. And like, you guys must get these calls too. I don't know how to deal with that because I really don't want to get involved in a spat between 2 people. And I don't know what I can do. I mean, I just tell them to call USCIS if that's a problem, and deal with them. I mean, what am I going to do? Like, sue the person? I don't do lawsuits. So it's just out there. But when they call, they're frustrated, and I can't just hang up on them. So I take calls. So be like, try calling USCIS. And one lady who called, and she said she had done a K-1 case, and the person that she married was her cousin, and as soon as he got here, he dumped her. And so I'm like, okay, just call USCIS complaint. It's like, well, one thing is, like, we didn't tell them we were cousins. And on the K-1, it asks if you have any familiar relationships. So I'm like, oh, you committed fraud yourself. So if you go and tell them, that could be a different problem for yourself. And then she wanted to get into it. And at that point, like, I was just like, I'm not going to be guiding you. I don't know how to do this particularly. I don't want to give guidance in something I'm just guessing at. Because I could say, maybe do this, maybe do that. And they'll do it. And they say, oh, this attorney told me to do that. So I'm not going to mess around and give advice, something I'm not going to do myself, because I've seen when I first started, when I'll give people helpful advice for the phone, to just have them do even something simple as an advance parole or a reentry permit. They messed it up, and they call me blaming me. I said, listen, like, I didn't say what you're telling me to say. That doesn't make sense for telling me to say. But I drew the line and said, unless I'm going to put my hands on it, I'm going to submit a G28 with it and put my all into it, I can't advise people. And it frustrates people to call. They think I'm being a jerk, but if I say something and they misinterpret it, which clients usually do, they just I had another client say, like, just someone who watched one of my videos said, I said do this, and they tried to do it, didn't work. And I said, which video? So she said this one. I'm like, go listen again. On the phone, we both listened to it. I'm like, nowhere in this whole video did I say that. Where did you come up with this? I'm like, well, you didn't say this, but you meant to say this. I sounded like, I'm like, I didn't say that. So the thing I realized, people don't listen to what you're saying. It's very frustrating in personal life. As I became a lawyer, I noticed this much more because my brain changed. But when I talk to people, like, most people don't listen at all. They just assume what you're saying, and within the first couple of words, they just are ready to say what they want to say instead of listening to the end of the sentence. And so it gets very frustrating. That's one of those things you can't advise people over the phone unless you can have control of the case, and you can follow up with it, take notes, send a follow-up email, recap, and all it takes time. And when you have 30, 40 people calling you every day, there's no time. Now, and that's it. I don't want, either I do something right or I don't do it at all. But those are some ideas to leave with frustration. And I was going to have a pro tip at the end of it, but I can't remember what the pro tip was. Just think about your practice. If you have any ideas or worries about the introduction of artificial intelligence, or thoughts of how practices could deal with that and how we could work with that, one thing is never fight the future. So although I didn't work with those sites that had those websites that kind of took away from my job, I'm realistic of which direction things are going. So that's why I jumped on social media and getting reviews on websites, which a lot of attorneys are against, though, being on directory sites. Because the reality is, everyone coming up in the new generation, they're going to go to the internet to find something. And even if someone gives them information about a referral, a good lawyer, they're going to go to Yelp and do that. I just got a naturalization case where this person originally got her green card through this one attorney, and she wanted to go back with them. And so she went online to just double check, and his reviews were horrible. And she's like, well, this guy was wonderful to me, but his reviews are so bad. Maybe after a couple of years, since he got my green card, he's terrible now. So I decided I'm going to go with someone else, and I decided to go with you. So this is real life consequences for this stuff. So don't fight the future. That's one thing you can't do. Whether you like it or not, that when things are going a certain direction, you got to go with it, unless you plan on changing it, and you got to do that slowly and surely. But fighting the winds on technology is something that's not going to happen. So work with it, don't work against it, and have a long-term plan of which direction things are going. That's probably something I'm going to talk about at the luncheon in New Orleans, and hopefully I'll see you all there. think 5, 10, 15 years down the line. And one of the reasons I do a lot of these video kind of stuff and podcasts and, all these different kinds of things that are not specifically practice related is, I've seen lawyers that are doing this for 20 years, 25, 30 years and still doing it. And so, is this something that we could continually do for a while? Is the business going to be there that term? Am I going to be healthy enough to do it? Am I going to even be into it? I've seen lawyers that are still doing it for 30, 40 years, and they're kind of winging it. And is that the quality of service I want to give after doing, my 10,000th I-130? I'm going to stop caring potentially. So thinking long term, I'm developing alternative avenues. And I actually did a great interview at the beginning of the week. I'll have show notes on this probably, but it was called the 9 to 5 podcast. It's a gentleman in Canada who interviews entrepreneurs and stuff. And I was talking about my business plans and how I have a solo practice. And it'd be something interesting to listen to. It was a good interview, ask good questions. But I'm developing alternative secondary revenue sources to hold up the practice if things go down here, or if I want to move on, or, I want to go travel for 6 months and I want, have a stable living. These are things to think about. What alternative methods of revenue are out there? Because the old model of how things work with regards to law, medicine, factories, everything is changing. And so to be up on it with the times, you got to be really focused and have an idea of how things will look 5, 10 years from now. Not to be afraid of it, just be prepared for it. And do anything you can do within your specialization, within what your passions are, to be prepared for that. And if you have certain other passions or want to talk about, please email me. I'd be interested to know what kind of ideas you have, and I won't steal them, I swear. Well, maybe I'll do something similar. I'm not stealing them, but you don't have to tell me your ideas, but just the thoughts you have on this. That'd be very interesting to hear. You can leave comments on my YouTube page or the YouTube video for this, youtube.com/JQKLaw. I have on iTunes, again, the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. Leave reviews and stuff like that as well over there. And also, you could always, as I said, email me, info@jqqlaw.com. I'd love to hear from you. And thank you to everyone who's been emailing me and supporting the podcast and giving me ideas. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much. This is a recap of March 20 to 26th. Hopefully, it's going to be a fun week, and I'll have another one for you. And we could enjoy just a good week this week, a bountiful week, a successful week, and hopefully help a lot of our clients have a better life. Until next time, bye-bye.